something very dehumanizing when everyone does love you, because you're being all things to all people. There was a podcast, as you mentioned earlier, Sammy Davis Jr. That guy, at one aspect, you can totally understand why Sammy Davis did the things he did. He was playing ball with white people, you know, so he was using, leveraging all those things for his advantage. But at the same time, you know, there's a certain degree of selling out, where you're having to, you know, say things against, you know, your people. You're having to do things that make the masses happy. That are there's one thing they did it was like a reporter, you know, like how they have the president on that national press dinner, whatever, and they make jokes about the president while he's in the room.
Yeah.
If you ever have a chance and Google, like, Sammy Davis gets roasted for a press dinner, the stuff they said about this guy while he was present was criminal, and he had to smile and take it, because that was part of the deal. If you wanted to play with the white people, you had to do what the white people did. So there's so much of that aspect of trying to be the chameleon, trying to blend in and trying to make your story or your person palatable for everyone. It's just not going to happen. You can't.
Yeah.
You forfeit so much of yourself. You may get what you want in the short run, but in the long run, you know, I think it does much more damage.
Well, you lose who you are.
Yeah. You
lose something, little self. I don't know if it's self-respect but you lose a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you just know, like, I mean, everybody battles with that, like, wanting approval, but if you know that, like, there's no...
You got it. Yeah.
You know.
Yep. So as I hit record there, we're live, Jason. So it's so good to have you, Jason Gradyan, on the Origins Life podcast, here to share your story. And we were just kind of chatting before we got started here, letting people gather onto the show. Hopefully you found your way to the live stream. But Jason, so good to have you. Thanks for joining us, and we're excited to hear your story today.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here. Thanks for calling me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah. You know, I mentioned this before we started, but I'll say this also just for the audience's sake. There are people who don't want to do this. There are people that are hesitant to sit down and to tell their story. Now, I'll give them this. They may not like me, okay, or they may not trust me enough, and I totally get that. That's a human dynamic I can't change. But there are certain people I just say, look, I don't want to share my story. I'm not comfortable with that for whatever reason, because it may still bring them pain or discomfort, or they may not like where they're at. And I'm not challenging anyone here, but I'm just maybe drawing attention to the importance of sharing our story, whether we are totally supportive of our story or whether there's things in our life that we'd like to change. It's irrelevant. It's who you are, your experiences, and those things that shape you into becoming the person that you are today. Yeah. So that being said, Jason, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your childhood. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Born and raised here in Vegas. Grew up right in the center of the city, like Saharan eastern area. So, like, pretty fun area to grow up in. Went, single family home. Single mom, worked her butt off to take care of me and my sister. And basically raised by the village, you ever heard that term?
Yeah.
I believe that was my life. I had lots of supportive aunts and uncles, and great grandparents, and my grandparents were awesome. So I had tons of support. Lots of people looking out for me.
Mm-hmm. Were both your parents involved in your life?
No, just my mom.
Okay.
Yep. My father didn't want to be around, so we never really forced him to.
Right. So for people that don't know Las Vegas, you said really right on Sahara, which is kind of was the heart of Vegas for a lot of years.
Yeah, it used to be this like where I was at was like pretty much Sahara and Eastern, and that at one point before it expanded west, it was like the center of town,
Okay.
and it was a pretty nice area.
Mm-hmm.
It's still kind of fun. It's still nice down there, but yeah, it was like everything was going on down there.
Yeah. How would you describe Sahara now? Again, for those that don't know the area.
Huge,
Yeah.
like just a 8-lane street with tons of traffic, which I try to stay off of at all
Right.
costs.
There's so much of Vegas that's changed in the last 20, 30 years. A lot of people just think that it's always been bright, big city bright lights.
Well, since I graduated in '96, the population has doubled, if not it for sure doubled, but it's gone up even a little bit more. So in 20 years, it's been 22 years since I graduated. We've gained 1 million people.
Yeah.
I mean that's crazy growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know?
that housing boom and then subsequent bust
Yeah.
really changed things here in the city for forever. I mean, we have the Raiders coming, and we have NHL. That for people that have like you that have lived here, 30 years ago, you said you would have never thought that stuff would have probably been
No,
happening.
all we cared about was the Rebels.
Yeah,
And diehard Las Vegans still care about the Rebels.
yeah,
You know, which they always hold a special place in my heart.
yeah. Danny Tarkanian.
Oh, well, Danny was, and then, the LJ and those guys.
Yeah. What they did in the 90s was pretty spectacular.
Oh, totally.
I remember, being a kid from Omaha and watching that and thinking, UNLV, what does that stand for? UNLV, what? University of Las Vegas. They have a university in Las Vegas? Which probably most people at that point were pretty puzzled. How can you have a college where there's casinos?
Yeah.
How can you live there?
Well, we call it University Never Leave Vegas,
Yeah.
because you go there and then you end up staying in Vegas. And
Mm-hmm.
But I like it here. So
Why do you like it here?
I just like the newness of everything. It seems like buildings get old, they tear them down and build new ones. And I like being able, you're spoiled here. You're able to get whatever you want whenever you want it,
Yeah.
and it's just nice. And I'm comfortable here. I mean, I live in Henderson now, and I work in Henderson, Las Vegas area, but I just dig it here still.
Yeah. So, anything in your young childhood that you found was formative as far as influences? Or obviously, you were raised by your family, many parts of your family. Was there parts of your childhood that you see as very formative or shaping?
Yeah, I would probably say my probably my high school years, because I had you're becoming a young man, and you're not really that's tough for men, for all kids, but I think that's when I kind of figured out who I was in high school. As far as maybe I started playing sports, and I had some really good coaches who taught me how to suffer and enjoy, and taught me a lot about life. And I would say probably my high school years were my most formative.
What sports did you play?
I played football, and I wrestled, and then I golfed.
Okay.
So,
Golf, huh?
Yeah.
That was the counterbalance, huh? So,
Yeah. The two contact sports, and then one.
Yeah.
But I did all three, and I enjoyed them. I mean, it was fun.
What position did you play?
Oh, I played all O-line, D-line, linebacker.
Okay.
And then, wrestling I wrestled anywhere between 71 and 89.
Okay.
It depended. Because coming out of football season.
How much weight you could lose.
Yeah. And coming out of football season, I was heavier, but it took me a while to get down.
Mm-hmm.
But by the middle wrestling season, I was about down to 70s.
I wrestled a little bit early high school, middle school and then early high school. And I'll be honest with you, the number one reason I stopped was because of the dieting. As a young person, I remember thinking, this couldn't be good, as a young person losing 15 pounds in 3 days. That was the one thing that really just steered me away from it. And then from that point, I went into rugby.
Oh, okay.
So I still got my contact fix.
Yeah.
And it's wrestling, it's football, it's soccer, it's everything all in one. But that was my outlet for a while. It was rugby. So, but this isn't my show. This is yours. So
What?
let's go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I always kind of enjoyed the weight loss. It
Really?
was kind of like the challenge. No, I knew it was bad for me, and I knew like the way I was losing it was even bad. But it was still kind of fun in a way to be hungry. You feel like you really are in tune with yourself when you're hungry.
Yeah.
And I don't have that drive now, and I know it's not right to do, like lose 19 pounds in 1 week. But at that time, I was having fun doing it for some weird reason.
You just like the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You made that statement. You really are in tune with yourself when you're hungry. That's super true. That's super true. It's because when you're satiated, when you're fat and happy, and you're rested, it's anyone can be nice when that happens. But when your body is in need, and you're choosing that, it's almost like you're in the driver's seat. You're telling your body what it's going to do, and then you're having to really deal with all the problems of hunger. And so it becomes more of not a game, but a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we've lost that. I think people forget how to be hungry. And I'm like the metaphor of like hungry for something, not just food, but hungry to be successful, hungry to win, or hungry to, be the best brother or be the best boyfriend.
Yeah.
We're pretty spoiled in our lives.
How has that translated into where we're at today? How do you see that affecting us as people?
I think we're very lackadaisical about stuff, and everything is so instant gratification. You can just, forget it. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I'm the best. It doesn't matter. I'm still gonna get a pat on the back. Maybe we're not as driven to be great as like far as academics, because like teachers get, it's hard to fail a kid, even if they deserve it. I know, I'm a teacher. Like there is some backlash if you throw some bad grades out there, from not, it doesn't look good to fail a kid, even if they like did. And I'm a PE teacher, so you're an athlete. If you fail PE, you have to work hard to fail PE.
Right.
I mean, you have to do nothing.
You have to forget your shoes a lot.
Yeah, forget your shoes. Don't wear, don't show, don't do anything. And I mean, if you just show up and dress out, you're going to get a C.
Right. Minimal effort. Even as people, we struggle with minimal effort because we're so satisfied and we're not challenged. Yeah, that's very observant. To be able to see that as a culture where we're at as people. So you grew up in Las Vegas, playing sports, very active, living basically in the heart of Las Vegas, really growing up around the influence of several family members.
Oh, yeah.
And then you went to college here as well?
Yeah, I went to UNLV. Okay. And was in college for 6 years.
Okay.
Having a blast.
Got your master's, huh?
No. Just, okay. I did get my master's, but it took me 9 years of school to get my master's. But
okay.
Yeah, I probably could have got my master's if I did enough time to get a master's, but
okay, some extracurricular activity.
Yeah, I had a great time. Fraternity.
Yeah,
still to this day, still same friends in my life that I had in college are still my friends in life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was out hiking in my end of my senior year, pretty much the last week. 10 days before I graduated from college, I was out hiking near Red Rock, and I fell 40 feet and fractured my spinal cord, or my T12L1 vertebrae, blew them up like a bomb went off my body, and that's when like my life completely changed.
Wow. Tell us about that. Tell us about that event at Red Rock.
Well, it was near Red Rock,
okay.
But I fell. I was on the edge of a trail, and the trail broke out from under me, and I fell 40 feet and sustained a incomplete spinal cord injury, which basically part of my spinal cord was damaged and part of it wasn't. So I ended up losing almost complete use of my right leg, and some damage to my left too. But my left is still semi-functional.
Wow.
Yeah, that's when life got kind of real. You know, you're living that college life of carefree, not a responsibility in the world. You know, pretty much you feel like you're at the top. I felt like it at the time. I remember looking in the mirror, saying exact words: "You have the world like in your hands." Like looking at myself in the mirror, and then less than a week later, I'm paralyzed in a hospital for 3 months, and you know that knocked me down a couple notches.
Sure. And at the time, you had no idea if you'd walk again.
No. I mean, when I was first hurt, you know, the doctors had said some things to my family members. I never remember him saying anything directly to me. But I also was realistic, and I knew what a spinal cord injury was because I'm a PE major, and we had to do some anatomy stuff and kinesiology things, and you know, we learned about that. So I knew how serious the injury was, and I remember, I just remember being kind of semi-conscious, and I always managed in my life to always get away with stuff, whether it was like trouble with the cops, or like just I was always able to just skate through it. But I remember saying to myself when I woke, and like this is when maybe like a day after I was injured, so I wasn't like talking to anybody particular. Like I was just laying there, and I said, "You're not going to get out of this one." And I knew I was really, really hurt. So I just didn't. But I didn't like say I'm never going to walk again. But I wasn't like going into it saying like I am going to walk again. I just, whatever happened, happened. I mean,
it's life-changing a lot for a young person to have to wrestle with and grapple with and accept, knowing that your life is going to be drastically different, and to be not okay with it, but to accept it for what it was. That's I can't even imagine those times, those moments of clarity, of introspection.
Well, it's just the worst thing with this injury is you just don't know. Like some people break their back and nothing happens. You know, they're fine. They can walk away from it. And it's just so it's, I guess, the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And like I prayed a lot. There was a lot of praying. Please asking God to help me, you know, maybe walk again. And I will say this, like I had one toe on my left leg, so both pretty much from my hips down. No, I had no movement except my big toe on my left foot, and it was like full movement. It was kind of crazy. Like I could probably tap you with my toe if I could get my toe to you, you know. So that gave me some hope. And then I had like in spinal cord injury, like with the spinal cord injury, once the swelling goes down, that's what hurts you. Once the swelling, it causes scar tissue, and then with that, it causes a blockage of the signals. That's how you get paralyzed, unless your cord is just cut, which mine wasn't, luckily. But with the after the swelling goes down, you start to, like, if it's an incomplete injury, you will start to see return, they call it. So like before you know it, like I was able to do like a leg extension with my left leg, and then like a calf raise with, you know, like, oh, I got some hip flexors. It's kind of a weird, like, one day you wake up and you can flex your calf, you know, or so you just keep your fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's like the luck of the draw, really.
Yeah. How the body, if those nerves end up coming back online or if they remain turned off. So tell us about the recovery process. I mean, how long was that? What was it involved, and how did it shape and change you as a person?
You have to be, oh man. Like when you have a spinal cord injury, you feel like you have to, you like, I don't know if it's the right term, but you gain humility, because you're relying on everybody to do everything for you, from shower you to wipe your butt. I mean, that's in my family. My mom, my aunt, like my mom and my aunt's a nurse, and like in the I'm 24, like young man, and I'm working pretty hard. I mean, I will say I felt like got everything I could out of the rehab. I was there for 3 months. And the physical therapy aspect. So you're working hard. It's like you're sweating. I had a turtle shell.
Mm-hmm.
So I had like a back, like it covered my whole chest and my back because my back was still healing. So I'm sweating all day, and I wanted to be showered every day. Well, with the way that it's a busy rehab hospital, they're like, hey, you get a shower every 2 days. And all right. Well, I'm like, my mom and my aunt, of course, will like, well, that's not okay. Yeah, we'll shower them. Just let us use the shower. So you gain humility. I mean, when your mom and your aunt, you're 24 and they're showering you.
Yeah.
But the question was how did it affect me, the process?
Yeah, how did it change you? I mean, that's we see people that have never gone through it. They see, maybe they'll see a short video of someone walking on like an assisted, beam, and there's someone right there next to them. But we just get snapshots. We don't actually get to experience that or understand what the person's going through. So the mental part of that, not just the physical part, is just as formidable. But we often have no way of even relating to that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it opened my eyes to how many people truly care about me too, because besides like my grandma was there every day. My mom, my sister, my aunt, my uncles would come and visit me every day, and my best friends were there every day. And like they gave it a little sense of normalcy because they just like. What we would do outside, they just moved it right to my hospital room. So I'd hang out for like 4 or 5 hours. We'd watch the basketball game, whatever. It was during the NBA finals or NBA Western Conference finals and the rest of the summer, really. But it was humbling to know that like they loved me that much. Like I said, I still have those same friends today, and it's a life-changing experience. I mean, I went in weighing 180 pounds when I got hurt, and I came out weighing 130.
Wow. And you're how tall?
5'11".
5'11".
I mean, that's honest.
You don't give yourself the extra inch?
No.
Okay.
No, I used to. But I still have some friends that swear they're 6'2", and I'm like, you're like this much bigger than me.
Yeah, but at 5'11", 130 pounds, right? Is that what you said? That's skeleton.
Pretty skinny. Yeah. Because I'm fairly thick guy. I mean, they're when you leave, the biggest adjustment was in the hospital. Everything is easy. Like, I mean, you have your therapy, everything's accessible. You have people are there to make sure you can get around or help you. The real adjustments when you leave that 3 months of like protected, like you're protected, and you go into real world, and you're in a wheelchair. And you don't see anybody else in a wheelchair. And you go into public and you feel like everybody's staring at you. And they're not. I tell people all the time when I talk to newly injured guys, I'm like, hey, you're going to feel like everybody's looking at you. They're not looking at you like, they're not looking at you in a negative way. They just wonder they're not, most of the time they don't even notice. They just go, everybody's wrapped up in their own lives anyways.
Yes. And this accident happened about 17 years ago?
No, 2002.
Okay, so 16 years ago. And even from my perspective, the advancements that we've made in helping people that are either paralyzed or partially paralyzed from a kind of a societal standpoint has increased. It seemed like when we were growing up, not everything was wheelchair accessible. So I remember thinking it's like. There was a lot of things that someone that was either fully paralyzed or partially paralyzed was kind of banned from because there wasn't given access to those things. But it seems like there's been more of an effort made in the last 15, 20 years to make those things now accessible. Would you agree with that, or from
Yeah.
your perspective? Because we walk around, we do our thing, and we don't really think about hindrance or how do I get up here. But for someone that's that requires assistance, I mean that determines where you're going.
Yeah, it does. Vegas, that's another reason I love Vegas. Vegas is a new city, and they have, they comply with ADA law. Like most of them, I mean, very few places have I not been able to get into. And there may be like that's because there's nothing old. Like the old buildings don't have to necessarily fix to make it work for me. And I don't necessarily think that everything has to be fixed to make the world doesn't stop and revolve around me. I mean, it's nice though when you're here, when you go down. When I rarely go down to the Strip and like there's like nothing I can't get around. The pool, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for those that are watching and haven't met you before, tell them about your current physical state, like as far as your abilities and what you're capable of doing.
I mean, I just live life like everybody else. I'm pretty physically fit. I still work out a lot. I just swim, bike, and run. I guess I'm like semi-retired from racing. I did the last in 14 and 15. I did the Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. Finished both years. Finished second.
Out of how many?
There was in my class, there's probably in the PC class, there's probably like 14 or 15 of us.
Mm-hmm. Good. So finished second.
And I finished in the hand cycle class. I finished second overall too.
And people competing in those races, those aren't weekend warriors. I mean, those are
no. You can't fake your way through an Ironman.
Yeah.
You can fake your and there's a difference. An Ironman is 140.6 miles long.
Okay.
So
yeah.
It's not like when people go to Lake Mead and they said I did an Ironman and they just really did a sprint triathlon, which is 7. It was just that's admirable too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not judging them.
Not here to make enemies.
I'm just saying it's not an Ironman.
Yeah.
It's like not that long. It's just that's a long way. It's like pretty much it'd be like going from here to Barstow.
Mm-hmm.
140 miles.
And that's hard enough in a vehicle.
I know. I'm kind of finding my way again because like I focused so much on triathlon for so many years, and then life changed. I got busy with other things, but I tried. So I worked out but inconsistently throughout the week, like maybe 4 times a week, compared to like 10 times a week when I was training. So it's finding that balance is what I've been working on for like the last 2 years, and I'm starting to get it. I mean, I'm still. If you were to ask me to go out and swim 2 miles, I'd have no problem doing it, or bike 40 or 50 miles, or run. Or my version of running would be push a racing chair. I could still probably go do a 10-miler easy. I mean, not
That's
easy,
amazing.
but
if I could just be very blunt, there's people with 2 perfectly good legs that wouldn't do that in the course of 10 years. That amount of distance and that amount of effort. It's amazing that you haven't. That when you were faced with the reality that life would be different, but you made a conscious decision not to allow this to keep you down, and that you were going to find ways in which you could still live life to the fullest, enjoy it, compete, feel satisfied with hard work and the reward of it. I mean, that was a conscious decision you made at an early point in this process, and it's continued to really shape who you are today.
Well, it goes back to like before when I was in college, I was like 240 pounds. And I was a chunk ball.
It's a lot of Bud Light.
Yeah. Coors Light, Bud Light, Miller Light, doesn't matter. Didn't matter at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then like towards the middle, maybe like my senior year, like my third senior year, I just got sick of being so fat. So I started running hills outside of my work up in Summerlin. I worked at a rec center there part-time while I was still in school. And then I started getting really fit, really loving it. I was like, man, this is like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even understand at the time. I was just like the feelings, like the endorphins. And then I got hurt. So I knew when I got hurt, I had to find something to replace that.
Yes.
And some people replace that feeling with whatever they want to replace it with, but I didn't want to do anything. I mean, I still was like out partying with my friends after I got hurt because I was like what we did, But I wanted to stay fit too. So I was like, I started swimming, and that's how I got led into the whole track. You know, swimming naturally will lead you into triathlon usually, and that's how I like got led into this where I'm at now. As far as I would just swim aimless miles, aimless laps in the pool. You know, it was like 12 to 15,000 yards a week.
Wow.
And then people would, hey, come do this race, try this, and then push me, you know, and that's where I'm at now.
So you've been competing for how many years?
Consistently for at least 10 years, 12 years. 12 years actually.
Okay.
And I've done like pretty much any endurance sport out there. I mean, except the ultra marathons. I've never done an ultra marathon, but marathons, Ironman, you know, every distance in triathlon from sprint to Ironman, long distance swims, you know, 10-mile or 10K swims. I mean, you know.
I remember seeing you at the gym when I was thinking a lot about this, before the interview. And I remember the first time I talked to you because I saw you there at the gym with your chair, and I'd see you get up out of the chair, and I think you were doing pull-ups or something that you were working on. But I saw that, and I thought, I just got to go talk to this guy. Like, I don't know what he's about, but you know, just seeing you, you know, at the gym, you know, just working out, exercising, and not even. Like, it was like the wheelchair, it existed for you, but it didn't. It was, you were doing your thing and exercising, and it was a sight to see, and it was really compelling for me, and it caused me to come up and say hello to you. And
I remember that.
Yeah, it was several years ago now, but
yeah,
you challenge people, you know, because those that have full use of extremities and privilege, you know, if we're being honest, sometimes we don't use it the way we probably should. And you probably took it for granted too when you had it. Now that you've, you know, had some of it taken away, you're obviously much more appreciative of life itself as a whole, and it's changed you as a person. And that's something that I think it's wise of us to consider, that when we're well, so we're not wasting our life.
Yeah, no, I've said that before. You don't think about your senses or your walking until you don't have it, and that's natural. I mean, I've had friends that have lost eyesight, and it's like they're like, oh my gosh, I never appreciated looking out the window at the, you know, sky or whatever. And you can't hold that against anybody, because like I remember, like the minute I was hurt, I could not remember what it felt like to walk, and even though I walk now, it doesn't feel, I know it's not the same. I don't feel the same. It's not natural. I have to think about it. You know what? I think what people have to figure out is figure out some way to drive them, as long as it's healthy. Like for me, I remember I always, like, at first when I started swimming, I just didn't care about, like, I was in my own world. And then once I started getting in the endurance world, my motivator was I had like a massive chip on my shoulder. I was like, these guys all underestimate me. They just see the poor dude in a wheelchair. They don't realize that, like, and then so I'd always wanted to be the best swimmer and beat him out of the water. And then I wanted to beat him on the run or beat him on the bike. And I remember like a guy I was riding. I'll never forget this. I was riding out on, do you know the River Mountain Trail?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, it's just it's a trail system on the far south side. It's like, you know where the Basic Bee is at?
Yes.
It's right by there.
Okay.
And it loops around all around the lake and through Boulder City.
Okay. Does it go through the old railroad tracks?
It's right by the railroad trail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I remember a guy, and it was getting dark, and I was out riding my hand bike, getting ready for my first triathlon, and somehow we were like talking, and it was getting dark, and I was like, "Hey, you want to ride home?" Like, I was like, I didn't know if he said, oh, he told me he was going to ride home, so I'll give him a ride, because like, you don't want to ride your bike on the streets of Las Vegas in the daylight, but
right.
at night. So anyways, I said, he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trying to, you know, train for my first triathlon, and then I eventually want to get to Kona. And he said, wow, that's kind of a unrealistic goal, don't you think? Like, that's kind of a big deal. And I was like, well, that hit me. I was like, well, I don't know if it's unreal. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's unrealistic to me. I mean, it took me like 10 years to get there though.
Mm-hmm.
But
because you don't just sign up for it, you have to
qualify.
Qualify, right?
Yeah, and it was like I wasn't right then. It was like probably a pipe dream, but I evolved into it. I got better and better and fitter and gained more confidence in myself to go to these races and race against better competition and race against and actually have a chance to go. But that made me carry a chip on my shoulder where I was like, I'm going to try really, really hard to beat whoever is in my way. And after Hawaii in 15, I kind of lost that chip, which is I'm glad about that, but now I have to figure out and find another way to motivate myself to get up and do whatever I want to do.
Why doesn't the chip work long term?
Well, I think once you realize that it's just like in triathlon, I know now that nobody even gave a crap what I was doing, and if anything, they were just supporting me positively. Like it's a narrow-minded sport. People are only care about what they're really doing themselves. So that's what I tell everybody. And like when they're like, oh, like my girlfriend's getting ready to do her first 70.3, which is a half iron, 1.2 swim, 56 bike, and 13.1 mile run. And she's a great athlete. She's a way better athlete than I am. I mean, physically. But she's getting her confidence, and she's learning how to swim right now. And she's not bad. She's functional, but she's not great either. But swimming takes time to get great. And she worries I think she thinks people are going to judge her, and I'm like, nobody cares. Now, of course, I didn't know that but nobody really cares. They're only worried about what they're doing.
Yes. So what made you reconsider the chip as a motivation? I mean, what events caused you to ask yourself the question, can the chip really keep me going long term? How did that change?
I think it's just the way I viewed myself. After I got through Hawaii, I was like, I don't want to sound cocky, but I was like, I finally acknowledged that I'm there. I'm ready. I'm good. Like,
it was validation.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I wasn't the best, but I felt pretty good about my accomplishments. And at that point I was like, I'm probably not as bad as I think I am. But I know I'm not great either.
Yeah. How many years ago was that race?
14. I did it in 14 and I did it in 15.
Okay.
So I went back to back.
All right. And you just turned 40.
Yep. Now I'm looking for something else. I don't know what it is, but something maybe in the triathlon world. I don't know. Maybe another Ironman. But maybe something different. Maybe, I don't know. But I need to find it. I need to find something else to train for. Some sport.
Right. And your girlfriend's very involved as well, so it's kind of a lifestyle for both of you.
Yeah.
That's great. You mentioned your school teacher, so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I'm a PE teacher. Well, I'm an adapted PE teacher. I'm a PE teacher by trade, but I teach adapted PE and CCSD in the Clark County School District.
Okay, so explain what that title is. What is that role?
So adapted PE is, we are fully mainstreamed in the Clark County School District, so all the kids with special needs go to PE with their general education peers. They're fully mainstreamed. If you took it's like 50 kids and 10 of them have autism. And I go into the class and make whatever modifications or accommodations those kids, my kids, the children with autism or whatever, physical disability, CP, Down syndrome, whatever they need is modifications, whether it be rules or equipment or behavioral stuff. I go in the class and teach and modify the class to fit to make them successful. Like it's not like easy example is like if you had a little kid in a wheelchair and you're asking them to shoot at a 10-foot hoop in basketball, it's hard. It's hard to shoot a basketball at a hoop, even I'm a grown man.
Yes.
From far away. And so easiest thing to say is, okay, the adaptive PE teacher is going to go in. And most PE teachers can make this modification without us. But go in and we find a lower hoop, or get a lighter ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what I do for my career. It's great. It's awesome. It's a great career. I taught. I just finished my 15th year, and I taught my first couple years at a middle school here in town, just gen ed, boys and girls PE. I had a hard time. Like, I wasn't sure if I would continue to teach. I didn't quit. I did not quit.
What was hard about it?
It was hard because I was idealistic, because I looked at my coaches as they were like, they ran the school. Those were like you looked up to them. And it didn't matter what coach. It was like all the coaches. If you were the cross-country coach or bowling coach or whatever, football, wrestling, track, didn't matter. Like, they just you respected them. So if they asked you to do something, you did it. And I had a real hard time with asking kids to do stuff that was fair, and they refused. And I'm like, and being honest, coming off my injury, I got hurt in 2002. I came back to teaching. I started my first year of teaching in 2003. So
wow, I mean, that's a lot of transition.
Well, it's like,
wow.
I say it was like the perfect storm. I had a pretty tough school. First year teacher, no matter what, I don't care if you're at the most country club school in the world, your first year is always challenging, first couple years. And then I wasn't emotionally ready to teach. I didn't even know who I was. I'm like, what, you know? So if I went back now to middle school, I would have no problem, because I'm seasoned, and you don't win battles. You're not gonna win some of those battles with the kids. You pick and choose which battles you want to go after, you know. So after my second year, I was the PE teacher, and then I had an adaptive PE teacher who would come and help me with my class with the children with special needs. So after the second year, I was like, somebody told me about an opening, and I'm like, transfer, and I interviewed and got it. And I'm telling you, like, my whole life got better like that. My stress level from teaching went from here to like none. Because at least with my kids, if they're like, I'm not going to do that, I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, don't do it then. Like, I'm not trying to stress you out, you know? It just changed my whole, I'm telling you, I love adaptive PE. Changed my whole life. Made me recover better from my injury, everything. Because I wasn't so on eggshells with the kids, fighting them to trying to get them to be active, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been teaching for 15 years. I'm going back, you know, August 8th. Woohoo.
Yeah, it's here again.
But I'm like right at I just finished, like I said, I finished my 15th year, so I'm at the top of the mountain. Now I just got to cruise down, and I'll retire.
What age can you retire at?
So 14 years from now, I'll be 54.
Okay. And then start another career.
Yeah, another career.
Maybe like space exploration or something.
I don't know. Hopefully they'll have like a cure for spinal cord injuries by then.
Man, who knows? With all the advancements in technology, it's just it's amazing the things that are going on right now with the new discoveries and all the science that's now just made available to everyday people. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
You know, and also going into adaptive PE was, I wanted to talk about this too, is like why it helped me so much in my injury was because my boss is really big in the Paralympic world. So you understand the difference between Paralympic and Special Olympic, right?
Help us out.
Well, Special Olympics are for athletes with intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
And Paralympics are pretty much normal intelligence people with some kind of like an amputee or physical disability.
Okay.
And there's also a couple guys on our department who are in chairs with similar spinal cord injuries to me. And I've known them for years and years, even before I was injured. But I got a chance to really be around them. And they really mentored me as far as like life and just life in the chair. Like, it's crazy. Like, those guys have been such a big help to me. Like Adam, because it's just the weirdest thing. Like Billy and Adam. So Billy was my professor at UNLV for adapted PE before I was hurt.
Wow.
Like we partied together.
Wow.
Like and then Adam was an All-American. He's like an All-American football player at UCLA from Vegas in the early 80s. He played with my uncles at Gorman. So I knew who Adam, I knew them both, like indirectly Adam, and I knew Billy directly. But both guys have been like, it's a lot different when you can bounce off what's going on in your life with somebody that has lived it.
So you found a community of people that could really help you through that transition process.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I've had a lot of help. I mean, you never get through these things alone. I mean, and I say help, like I remember when I was going through there, right when I first got to the rehab hospital, and I was like freaking out. I was doing laps. My grandma said, told the doctor, you got to put him on something. He's going crazy. And he put me on some antidepressants for the 3 months I was there, and it like leveled me out, and it helped me. Now, when I left there, I probably should have stayed on him, but I didn't. I wasn't trying to be like a hero or anything. I was like, it can't be that bad. And it was I probably should have done like another year's worth of antidepressants or 2 years, but I didn't, and maybe made life a little more tough for me. But and
on top of that, you were starting a new career and trying to adjust. I give it to you for being able to handle all that, and without prescription meds, particularly the antidepressants. That's admirable.
Yeah, it was a battle, but I did have some, like throughout my life, even before and after my injury, I've had a ton of people that have been there to support me. I mean, I could probably spend an hour naming off between family and my close friends, and then the people I work with and who have become some of my best friends too. I mean, I love those guys.
Do you ever feel like in your interactions with people who don't have any limitations, do you ever feel like that people sell you short still? That they still kind of give you the that's Jason treatment. Oh, he's special. Do you think you're marginalized because of your injury, or do you even sense it anymore? No,
not really. It's funny you asked that though, because we did a ride out to the I-11 this weekend, and
42 miles, by the way.
42 miles.
For those people that...
It was a lot more than I was planning on doing, but,
It's amazing.
So you got to know I'm riding my bike on a hand cycle. So, just using my arms in my trunk. But, so we get to a place where everybody in my group could just throw their bike. They throw their bike over the concrete divider in the highway, and then we're going to ride back. Well, it'd be a big hassle for me to do that. I could have done it, but I was like, I'll just ride down the other 2 miles and turn around and come up. Everybody else is doing it. They just didn't want to do that climb. It was like a terrible climb, like 2 miles, like maybe 6 to 10% grade. And this dude goes, so maybe like there is a little bit of chip still. This dude, like I'm rolling, but now I'm confident though. Like now I feel much better about who I am as a person and as an athlete. Like the dude goes, "Are you okay?" As I'm riding and I'm moving. Now, if I was stopped, I wouldn't make it. I'm fine, But like as I'm cranking up this hill, the same speed as him, and he's using his 2 legs and I'm using my arms. I'm like, he goes, "You okay?" I go, "Are you talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah. Are you okay?" Like we're both miserable right now, but do I not look like I'm okay? I'm still moving, dude. I'm not dying, but.
And for someone that's never ridden a bike, even competitively or maybe even recreationally, the leg is really, really big. And you put 2 of those things together, legs create lots of power. Now, the average, steroider at the gym, doesn't care about his legs. He just cares about his biceps and his chest. But the amount of power you can generate from your legs as compared to your arms is drastically different. So for you to be able to keep up with that guy using your arms, which the biceps and the shoulders and the chest combined have to be half the muscle mass of 2 legs.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to do that with your arms I'm just blown away by what you're able to do and your work ethic and just how you you demonstrate what it means to keep going and persevere. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with it. I'd like to suffer. I think that's another thing I found out about myself. I'm most happy when I'm suffering the most physically. Not like when I had a hernia and I blew my hernia out, and like, I'm not talking like that. I'm talking like, I like to, like, on Saturdays, my best Saturdays are ride for however long I want to ride and drain myself, get a good lunch, and then don't do anything until dinner time. Just sit. And then go get a nice dinner with my girlfriend, and then watch a movie and go to bed. Like, and maybe do it all over again on Sunday or some,
Kind of a simple but yet effective and purposeful life. It's great.
I mean, you never hear of anybody getting in trouble after a good workout, I mean, I'm saying
that's good.
It's not one of those things you go home
good.
and like beat your wife over because you're worked out too much.
That's good. You're right. Yeah, as human beings, we're designed to move and to go, and you're absolutely right. What happens when we're not moving and going and doing what we are designed to do? Well, you have problems. Absolutely. It's such a good observant point. That's great. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but in the time that we have remaining, Jason, we've heard a lot about your past and what you've gone through, and I know it may be a tough question, but I want to ask you this: where are you going from here? Where do you see your life headed from this point forward?
Oh man. Well, I need to marry Amy.
You hear that, Amy? Right? She's talking to you.
That's the number one thing I want to do.
How long have you been together?
4 years.
Okay.
So it's time.
Okay.
And
she probably has been saying that for a while. It's time.
Yeah, but that's not because of her pressure. It's because, I mean, like, I just want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to get it done. And I need to find something else that drives me, some athletic event, whether it be do another Ironman. And I need to go back to school and get another master's so I can make more money in the district, because that's how it works.
Yes.
Just get degrees and get raises. So it maybe change, maybe move up to maybe like make a slight change in my career as far as administration. Maybe that's like in the next 15 years. I need to move to that. First things first. Amy's number one priority, and then find another athletic endeavor to focus on, and then maybe work on my career a little bit.
It's great.
And keep trying to stay healthy.
There's a lot of people that would that look for reasons to quit. I think it's Navy SEALs. They say look for a reason to win. We're always looking for reasons to quit. I think as people, we're naturally wired to be active, but we're also naturally wired to be lazy, which are always in conflict. And it's in those moments of opposition that typically our natural default is, here's a reason why I can stop. Okay, I got it. I can stop now. Whew. I'm glad I found that reason. But the total flip side, the paradigm shifter, is in those moments, find a reason to win. Find a reason to succeed. And you continue to find those reasons, and your life serves as a huge reminder of what it means to make that decision. How to find a reason to keep going and keep winning. That's great.
I like that.
Is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with, Jason?
No, just great to see you.
Yeah.
I was thrilled when you texted me, because like I said, your ears must have been ringing because I was just talking to you. And I hadn't talked to you in maybe a couple years.
It's been a year or two, absolutely.
And
our schedules kind of changed, and when you were going to the gym, when I'm going to the gym, those moments stopped happening. So,
but I was like, I've always, you're a very memorable person, because we've had some in-depth conversations. Like, we've dug pretty deep, even in the gym. And you struck a nerve with me as a person that's a good person. I respect, have a ton of respect for you. So when you text me Like I told you about the story when I walked in. I was like, your ears must have been ringing because I was just talking to you about you to somebody else, one of my other best friends, you know, and it was just cool. I was like, yeah, absolutely, I do it, just because I knew we'd get a chance to catch up, and you know, I'll talk. I don't mind talking about me a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Well, I love doing this. This gives me life. Out of all the things I do in my life, being able to sit down and talk with people is the thing that, you know, gives me more reason to keep going. And, you know, to be able to learn from other people is not just an exercise in audio and video. It truly is something that I, as a human being, I relish. We need the influence of each other. We need the diverse idea and thought. You know, we talked about this before the podcast started, but I purposely have a diverse show, you know, for that very reason, is that, you know, when you take the diverse experience of people and you allow a platform in which people can just share their story, amazing things happen. And for some people it's tough because there's people they'll identify with, and they'll love it and share it and like it. And then there's people that are like, I hate that jerk. It's like, okay, but can you still respect the person enough to hear them and consider their perspective? Doesn't mean you have to endorse it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. But can you, from a human standpoint, allow a person to be sovereign and independent and allow their perspective to remain separate from yours and yet still show them the respect that any human being deserves? That's just, that part of society is totally lacking. And if I can do anything in a small degree to begin to change that narrative, man, I'm all for it. And you mentioned it earlier, but this is a diverse city. Las Vegas is, I say it to everyone, I probably said it 10 times on this podcast, Las Vegas is one of the most diverse cities in America, point, end of story. Now, it's not as big as a New York, Miami, LA, got it. But when you look at the demographics of people that are here in this city, you have a very, very diverse place. And I just love bringing diverse people onto the show and allowing them to help not only me, but then an audience. And I think the other thing it does too is we in this fast-paced city where it's just alpha, you know, just go, get, consume, I think sometimes we run past people, fly past people, get into the next objective, and we don't even realize who we're passing. Like we have the character and the story and the type of individuals that we're just flying past to get to the next objective. It's remarkable. So, and it's a long story, but I really
can I just add on to that?
Absolutely.
When you mentioned that, when you talk about that, how we're basically, I think I'm interpreting it like you're saying, we're so wrapped up in our own world that we just like don't see, you don't see anything that's going on around you. And if you don't do that for a long time, you end up missing out on years of good time with people, good life, you know, if you get wrapped up. Because I remember, sorry, I won't.
This is it, man. This is good stuff. This is it. Go ahead.
I remember being like, my whole focus after I got hurt was just to walk. Like walking was like that was like, oh God, all I have to do is just walk and I'll be okay. And after like 4 years of therapy, I was like, when you pretty much like, you don't even, life just passed me by. For 2 years, I didn't do anything in life. And I've realized that like the walking doesn't even identify me. Like, I'm like, okay, big deal. I don't walk like everybody else. So what if I use a wheelchair? Like, it's like still fun life, you know? But you just kind of struck a nerve because when you get wrapped up in your own world, you keep nose to the grindstone and then you don't ever stop and smell the roses or anything.
Yep.
You know?
Our identity is in our doing and our thinking. That's in America. That's how we've taught people to live. Your identity is in what you do and what you think. Well, what happens when that's taken away? You know, is an Alzheimer's patient still themselves? Are they still a person? Yes.
Yes.
So if a person can still be a person without all of their cognitive ability, it really begs the question: what does it mean to be human? And if we cannot find our identity apart from this one main thing, well, then we're kind of missing what it means to live. So I hope this podcast kind of serves several purposes, but man, just get people thinking, you know, just get people considering other ideas and perspectives and who knows what happens from it. But I really enjoy it, Jason. I've really valued your time and your story.
Likewise, thank you.
And looking forward to sharing it with other people, and hopefully people will value it as much as I did.
Cool.
Thanks, Jason.
All right.
So right now they're seeing Orange Origins Light, bringing up some music for them to see them out and dropping off. So thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be posting the audio on podcast